Greetings from the Erie Coast. This is Mad Chad. You know, it's crazy. Talking to some folks here. And they're like, oh yeah. We used to have we had a missile base here back in the 60s. Like, a missile base? What? Northern Ohio? Yeah. And sure enough, I started looking into it. Something called the Nike missile site. There was two of them. And during the Cold War, and then what they had basically in the 50s is they had these missiles that were basically to shoot down the bombers, the Soviet bombers that would fly overhead. Later on, they upgraded to the Nike Hercules. The big nuclear warhead. Comes out of the missile silo. Which they then turned that into a community college. And the other one's a park. So, imagine that. But that's still, on the target reference thing. Even though, and they said that the Army came in and they dismantled everything and they filled it all up with concrete. All the underground bunkers and everything. We're roughly about 517 feet above sea level. So there is a lot of room to go down. Which they did. So interesting, huh? But they say, quote unquote, that the Army came in and dismantled all that stuff, and they actually, early 2000, they took out some storage tanks that were filled with acid and fuel and stuff. It's been sitting in there since the 1950s and 60s, huh? But what? Yeah, that's interesting. But there was a reason why I picked this place. It looked like a hardened structure. And if you look around, most apartment complexes look hardened. They really do. They're made out of brick and stone, and the walls are thick and everything. There's metal doors and whatever. A lot of people worked at this base, and at these bases, there were two bases, I think. Nathan and Nike. Yeah. One is now called Nike Site Park. So they actually called it a park. They actually called it the Nike Site Park. And that most places are hardened structures with fallout they're old fallout shelters. Circa 1950, 1960. But everybody, obviously you're thinking Cold War, everybody had a fallout shelter, especially if you're going to be housing, people that are working at your military site. So, like I said before, this place has a boiler room, which used to be a fallout shelter. The structure itself is hardened and kind of strange. As most apartment complexes are. So, pretty interesting. I'd have to do some more digging, but, I just found it kind of interesting. I picked this area because... And I like this area because there's nothing here. There's no military bases. The closest the Coast Guard is here. They patrol Lake Erie. And in Cincinnati area, there's an Air Force base. But that's it. So military, no military bases really to speak of. There's an annex off of the Cincinnati Air Force Base. But that's it. That's all. You know, it's just the big suburban jungle. There's more to meets the eye. Everybody has basements. Most apartments built in that time were, you know, built to fallout shelter spec, if you will. You know, circa 1950, 1960. Some of them actually have, like, they kept the original setup, and you can go down there and tour them. That's pretty cool. Now on those old sites, the old Nike sites, there's nothing there. Where the old Nike Hercules missile silo was, is now a big pond. Go figure. So they had two areas. They had the control area and the launch area, and you can understand what each one did. But now, you know, there's still the threat, if you will, because, you know, if you know, the Soviet Union or whatever was engaged in the Cold War, they had already targeted this place and had it targeted, and it's still targeted. So they're, you know, just as a, if you want to make sure, because you don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes here. You know, are they really gone? Is it really just a community college? Or is there still a missile silo down there? You know, chances are that it's not, because they, you know, there might be a chance that there's some leftover, you know, hallways or something like that, service areas, or maybe a little room or something down in you know, in a bunker kind of position, or tunnels maybe. I doubt it though, because, you know, when the army comes back, when the army comes through and they just destroy everything. They fill everything with concrete and blast it all down, or they use it and continue to use it with the option of, you know, continue to reoccupy if need be. And this was the Department of the Army that had this site. So, you know, would it be advantageous to check those areas out? Maybe. You know, there are fallout shelters around here. This building has its own. You know, it's underneath the hardened structure. There's a boiler room which provides all the heat and water for this interesting little apartment complex. as are most of the apartments here, especially if they're older. You know, so I just found all this out, and I was like, wow, that's pretty neat. Pretty neat. Cold War era stuff. Yeah. So this is Mad Shad. Encouraging you all to explore. Do some research. I mean, that's pretty interesting stuff. I will try to get into the to the area down there. I might venture around tonight on a Saturday night. Just kind of look around, map the area out, see if I can find this maintenance shop area, this boiler room area. You know, I would think that if you asked them, hey, can I take a tour? I think this stuff is interesting. I really do think it's interesting. You know, it'd be pretty neat to learn a steam system. You know, and it's run off of gas, natural gas. But you know, they do a lot of natural gas around here. You know, because you know you can get snowed in. But yeah, just thought that was pretty neat. So this is Mad Shad. Get your kid. Yeah. This is Mad Shad, encouraging you all to get out and explore, research your area. There'll be some interesting things you might find. Yeah.